What's going on, everyone? My name is Nicholas Merton here at Data Dash, and today is January 28th of 2020. Well, folks, I hope you all are having a fantastic day wherever you are, and in today's video, we've got a wide variety of cryptocurrency-related topics to discuss today. We'll obviously be talking about the last 48 to 72 hours worth of price action, and talk about the gains that we've seen across the board in the market, but also talk about my conviction for why I'm still positioned in altcoins at the moment, and outside of that as well, talking about a really exciting alliance that's building within the Ethereum ecosystem to further enterprise adoption. Now, we've got a lot of other topics to talk about as well, but let's just go ahead and dive into talking about the market. So taking a look over the last 24 hours, we can see the vast majority of cryptocurrencies are in the green here, with a few exceptions down in the red. But the vast majority of cryptocurrencies are picking up here, as we have Bitcoin tailoring up around 3.75% here over the last 24 hours. Again, we've actually seen a really strong rebound here over the last 3 days. If we take a look at the chart, we can see that we've pretty much recovered a week and a half worth of downward price action in markets. And again, as I've kind of stressed here, guys, when it comes to these kind of dips, if I ever have spare cash, I'll usually just kind of average in, especially after a solid rally and a base like we formed back here, where we nearly formed about a triple bottom here in the sense of price, right? Again, you have some variations here. You can see the wicks was more extended down here, but again, the major thing that I'm looking for here is a nice base where you start to go against the decline here. And that's exactly what we did. And we started to set higher lows, and we're testing to see if we can set a higher high here above the previous resistance back here, a little bit under 10,000 when we had the China news, right? So the price is looking good here. I will say the volume, it's not very impressive. Now, it would be good, again, to look at BLX, which is the overall aggregate of all of the kind of Western exchanges where you know that the volume is clear, it's regulated. But at the end of the day, guys, you know, again, the volume on BLX is about the same here as what you're getting on Coinbase. It's not that impressive right now. So I want to see more follow through on volume here. Now, again, some people would make arguments that because, of course, more Bitcoin is being, hoarded in this case, or people are holding their Bitcoin to hedge their wealth or to see it grow over time and speculate. At the same time, we could expect that there's going to be a decline in volume. I don't really think that's going to be the case. I think that we should see more volume right now in this case, even, again, if there is a lot of people now holding, or the HODLways, as we talked about when taking a look at the data science models that we've discussed, even though those are increasing in the longer term, right? I think we need to see more volume here in order to make sure that we can actually make support on these higher levels of previous resistance and then continue forward. But I am very, very optimistic about this, guys. I think, again, if we take a look at some of the data science models, as we'll take a look at in just a bit, we'll start to get an idea here of where we are in the sense of cryptocurrency markets. But the weekly paints a very clear picture here, guys. We're trading up here, right? We had one of the more severe midway corrections before we reached the previous highs from the previous cycle in any of Bitcoin's history, not to mention on a very large scale market in this case. So again, it was a very shocking level of correction. But speaking towards this kind of growth into the next cycle and talking about what to look forward to here, right? Again, I've told you guys before, I've been positioned in altcoins for a pretty decent amount of time. And so far, a lot of those positions have paid off. I've actually increased my Bitcoin comparative if you're just looking at it from a sole trader's perspective. But I also like having diversified exposure that can help me bring a higher yield in this case, right? Because for me personally, I think there's a lot of exciting projects, right? And if you're in any of those exciting projects, again, that are changing or challenging the space in some way, shape, or form, offering value outside of what Bitcoin's been able to offer, then in this case, you've probably brought a return in, right? So one of those is, for example, Basic Attention Token. It's been setting higher significant lows here. It's obviously setting a new support level at a higher range here. We've been talking about it ever since back here below around 3,000 sats, right? We've really started to build. I built the bulk of my positions down in this range here, kind of the low 2,000 sat range. Kyber Network, I built a position in after I started to see that we had a clear uptrend line here, started to build it around here in the low 2,000 range. Been holding for the past couple of weeks. It's been doing well. And along with that as well, we've got Raven, which is on the longer term, again, we're talking about a much longer term time frame since back here in 2018, has still been setting significantly higher levels here for Bitcoin comparative, right? Each and every time. So again, these are the things I look forward to. I like seeing Ethereum coming to make support on its long-term logarithmic line here. This basically is taking the open here from Ethereum's price on one of the longest term price ranges we have, taking the support range that was held for some time, and then also the breakout point here for Ethereum. Again, I think this is a very significant, similar to what we saw in XRP and some of the momentum plays, a very significant line here. And if we continue to hold this and set higher highs and higher lows, this would be even more confirmation that the market is moving higher. And then, of course, Chainlink here, which we've got on the weekly, setting a nice significant pattern here, an ascending triangle, which is an extremely bullish pattern. I'll bring it here to the daily just so you can see it a little bit clear. Held on nice critical support that was resistance, and again, we're setting higher lows and higher highs here, so long as this holds at this range, right? And eventually, hopefully leading for a breakout. So if you've been holding into the right altcoins here, guys, again, as I stress here with Bitcoin dominance, it showcases here that if you're in the right positions here, not even if you're not, the general altcoin market is keeping up with Bitcoin here. In fact, it's had some nice gains over the last few months. And it looks very much like over the next few weeks, we are going to see a really big turning point here where altcoins start to gain a decent amount of dominance here. We're setting lower highs. And again, we're coiling in here for a severe breakout either to the upside for Bitcoin or downside. Now, this again does not mean Bitcoin's going down. It just means that altcoins will very much outpace Bitcoin if we see dominance dropping at a pretty staggering pace. And if you're positioned in the right projects, even though we're not going to get the kind of multiplied returns at the previous cycle, at the end of the day, again, we're going to be seeing altcoins providing higher returns on average. So again, I've been doing a lot of delving, a lot of research into what those projects may be. I can tell you all they're going to be ones that are actually providing real fundamental value. Now, speaking about fundamentals and changes in the space, I want to go ahead and talk about some really exciting news. So some of you may recall, I've been an advisor on one of these projects, and that's Unibright. This is one of the really exciting projects that really helps streamline smart contract development and really had this concept all the way back in 2018 since I was a supporter of the project. But I want to go ahead and talk about a really exciting alliance here. Now, for years, it has been talked about that enterprises are just going to adopt blockchain, that there are abundances of use cases for enterprise adoption of not just cryptocurrencies in the sense of financial applications, but for a broad range of corporate use cases to replace traditional systems or to add as a secondary layer to already existing systems. And that's exactly what Unibright has been aiming to do, but they just recently did a partnership with a variety of projects that I'm a big fan of, such as Chainlink under the Ethereum Enterprise Alliance. Now, the EEA, for those of you who don't know, is one of the biggest Ethereum foundations in the entire world. It is a large consortium of people who are contributing to Ethereum base layer projects, to second layer solutions, to enterprise solutions, and then also has a variety of corporate partners engaged within the Ethereum Enterprise Alliance. You guys don't want to trust me with acronyms, but it's a very exciting thing to see that there's this great partnership between two of my favorite projects, Chainlink and Unibright, as well as AnyBlock Analytics, which, ironically enough, if you take a look at all three of these projects, they do have their specialties where they work in specific areas, where they provide probably a little more value than others. But the collaborative effort between all of them showcases that if you take a look, 5 or 10 minutes into any of the projects, you'll see very clearly that all of them have very similar shared goals in many ways. For example, if we go through the article here in this eminent task force which they've created under the umbrella of the Ethereum Enterprise Alliance, you can see a really nice colorful graph here that showcases the kind of different layers in the tech stack in order to make sure that Ethereum in public blockchains, but predominantly Ethereum in this case, working under the EEA, can actually be utilized by corporate entities. So if we go through the layers here, for example, you have what is defined as the yellow paper. This is kind of the core elements of the Ethereum blockchain, the proof of work consensus mechanism, having an on-chain public state, making sure that everyone's on the same page. But going through, you also have some of the public Ethereum features. You have the ability to have private keys and wallets, being able to deploy smart contracts. But all of this, right, is again not as valuable if you can't have other different types of layers that actually make them useful, right? If all we can do is, swap tokens between one another or send ether to one another, it's not that valuable, right? And even in the DeFi space, which I'm really excited about, we're not going to be able to see that come into fruition unless we have things such as what we can get within the enterprise side of Ethereum, where we can get actual oracles that can pull in price feeds and data from other sources, having systems like enterprise management systems that we can plug. And this is something that Unibright pushed all the way back in 2018, which was a big point for me being supportive of the project, knowing that the reason no one's adopting enterprise use case of blockchain is because if I can't communicate or plug into my traditional systems that I've been using for the last 20 years, you can kiss the high road. I'm not going to be using it, right? Or I'm going to wait until it's easy for me to plug into my traditional systems, because quite frankly, much like oracles, if I can't plug into those traditional systems, there's not many use cases for blockchain on this side of enterprise. So You can see here, guys, with things like private transactions and also being able to have off-chain consensus or off-chain authority, being able to use different consensus mechanisms outside of the base Ethereum blockchain, and also, again, having more private side blockchains, which have been really been proven through Hyperledger. Again, this is where we can start to see that we're providing features that make it useful for enterprise to actually adopt Ethereum and actually start deploying smart contracts and possibly consider the concept of maybe enterprise dApps, whatever it may be, right? There's all kinds of different use cases. And it's so awesome to see. I mean, you can take a look through Unibright's website. You can also take a look at any block analytics here. And you can also take a look through Chainlink's website. And you'll see that they have a lot of the similar kind of mindsets of providing data feeds through oracles, being able to connect to those traditional enterprise systems to simplify smart contract development. Again, that was kind of Unibright's original sole purpose, was to focus on providing simplicity in smart contract development, providing the tools to be able to be blockchain agnostic across different chains, and also being able to get valuable insights from being able to monitor those smart contracts. And you can see here through any block analytics, this is kind of where they tailor towards providing analytics on what's happening on chain and what's happening with the interaction of smart contracts on these public chains. So again, very exciting article, very exciting alliance here. And I just wanted to share it, guys, because I have been following Unibright for a long time. I've still been keeping in communication with the team here. I know we don't talk a lot about them. We usually talk about some of the kind of bigger announcements from time to time. Because quite frankly, because I was an advisor on the project, I don't like to talk about it too much. But I will say at the end of the day, again, I'm a big fan of what Unibright is doing, what Chainlink is doing, and to see two of my favorite projects alongside a really awesome project or company like Anyblock Analytics coming together and doing this under such an official organization, just again emphasizes my support for the project. So it's good to see. And another thing to just kind of talk about in the broader sense of the market, again, these are the kind of signs here of a changing market cycle. We've always talked, again, guys, when no one is interested in markets, you should get interested and make sure to do your research, because you'll tend to find that there's a lot of exciting things going on when markets are not being talked about, when people don't care. People like to buy during hype. They like to buy during noise. They don't do their research for the most part. To be fair, guys, let's just be real. That's the general kind of public here when it comes to markets. And it's why there are opportunities in a variety of different markets across the world where if you do your due diligence, you do your research, and you ignore the general noise of the day-to-day news, you can find some really interesting opportunities. And I think if we take a look at the logarithmic growth curves here for Bitcoin, we can see, generally speaking, where we are. Right? We just came down here having one of the most severe midway corrections, exiting out of the accumulation phase, and now we're starting to tick up. And the fundamentals are going to come to roost eventually. People are going to start realizing this over time. So I'm very excited. Again, you guys can look at a variety of the interesting data science models. But speaking about strategies and data science models, I want to go ahead and spend some time to talk a little bit about Clio. Now, again, we took a little bit of time to explore the Clio platform last week on the channel here as we talk about building strategies, or basically at the end of the day, algorithmic trading strategies to approach cryptocurrency markets, but we can also do equities, all kinds of different things. They cover equities, Forex, and crypto. Now, in our case, we're big crypto fans here on the channel, so I thought we might as well go ahead and spend some time diving through a little bit. And I want to talk about some of the cool features they have. Now, the really nice thing here about Clio is that they have a ton of free features for those of you who just want to kind of toy around with it. And I think one of the best things to do before you even consider, signing on to Clio or deploying an actual real strategy that's trading real funds is to do paper trading, to do a little bit of back testing, to see if your strategy is actually working as intended. Because I think the underlying goal here, if you're making these kind of trading strategies, is to hopefully turn a profit and hopefully beat out just holding long term, right? So we can see here on the paper trading strategy tab, we can actually deploy some of our actual strategies. So on the strategies page, we've got a few different ones here. We have an alts volume strategy, a momentum strategy, my Litecoin to Bitcoin strategy that I've made in the past, all kinds of different things here. But we can see here in the paper trading strategies that we've actually deployed two different strategies here. Well, we have one that was already deployed across the board. This is the free paper trade strategy that every account will be able to get in this case, which provided over an 84% return here on the yearly return. We also have an alts volume strategy. So this is a custom strategy that we've deployed here on my account on Clio. We can click here, and we can see here, if we go back to the backtest results here, the actual performance from when we started backtesting this. And we can see the average profit or loss, right? So you can see we have a high risk profile here because we are trading again, on a few different variables here where we can enter into the market. But along with that as well, again, we're taking on a pretty sizable position, and it also factors in, our profit ratio here and a few different factors. Now we can see the annualized return is around 22%, and we also have a total return of 65%. We can also go through and check through on our rules here just to make sure, again, as we're going through and checking our back testing, seeing our paper trades in this case, how is the market performing in this case, but also how are our rules actually being executed. So I want to go ahead and just spend some time to kind of, go through one of these sets of rules, because there's actually two different rules within the strategy here. And this is one of the cool things. Again, you guys can have multiple rules within a given strategy on the Clio platform. So we have multiple cases under one single strategy. So to put it in plain English here, we obviously have a win scenario. So when Bitcoin dominance is above 50%, so this happened back a couple of months ago in crypto markets, and cryptocurrency total market cap is up 1% in the last week, so the overall valuation of crypto markets, then we have a buy scenario here to average in this case, to purchase Bitcoin with USD Tether. We're going to use 20% of our balance, a stop loss of a market price of 6%, and a trailing take profit of 8% in this case, right? Now, the nice thing here again is we're not just setting ourselves up for one scenario. When you have an OR scenario, you can have multiple rules, and we can add 3 or 4 or 5 different types of rules here in our strategy. We have another scenario that when alt's total volume, so when the total volume of altcoins is down by 2%, in this case, we'll buy into Bitcoin. So again, it's showing that when there's a lack of interest, we'll get into another Bitcoin position. And then we're also going to close the position as well if Bitcoin is up by 10% in the last week. So we can have closing scenarios as well to build onto our strategies to get out of the position. So the general gist here is that we're finding two prime opportunities where when there's a lacking interest in altcoins, or if Bitcoin is growing and having a lot of strength in the sense of its market dominance, we're going to position ourselves in Bitcoin with our tether positions. So this is a really great simple strategy here. We can see that it's a profitable one. If we take a look at not only our strategies here, we can see a general outline here of our alts volume strategy up 65%. And we can also see that there are different strategies that we built. There's a timeline here of how we've actually gone about modifying these strategies, right? So you can see the different modifications here, how the yield has gone up over time, how we've modified the rule set. You can dive into the detailed back testing result, which will show you the rules. It'll show you any trades that specific strategy has made. And what's great too, guys, as I mentioned, you can actually go through and take some of the existing models. There's a lot of free strategies here on the platform that you can build upon and create new custom strategies or add to the timeline. So for example, we could, take the free paper traded strategy, right? We can go here to create new version. And we can start to see the different rules here. So this strategy is using multiple different rules here. We have 3 different possible scenarios where we could execute a buy order into Bitcoin with our USD Tether. But we could start to modify some of these things. So for example, let's take this rule up here. So we have when price is below the VWAP, and this is an indicator that's actually used a lot of the time in institutional trading and traditional equities, but you can also use it in crypto markets and in Forex markets. When the price is below VWAP and the RSI is below 35, in this case, we go through and enter in a position. Now, we're not only entering into Bitcoin, but we're also entering into BNB. But let's set another scenario here, right? We can not only look for price being below VWAP, and we could also have the RSI below 35, but maybe, for example, we want a cross on the MACD. Okay. So we can go ahead, type in the MACD here, we can add the MACD, and we could say, for example, is below a certain level, right? I'm actually not going to use a cross here because you wouldn't want to buy on a cross on the MACD. You actually probably want to look for when the MACD is probably crossing up in this case. So we'll go ahead and do a value of 10. And just like that, it's validating the condition. And it prompts us if we want, we can add more different conditions here. Again, we can have as many as we'd like here. We can be as specific as we want. And that's something I want to stress here with Clio. When you're building these strategies, guys, bear in mind that sometimes it can be extremely great to have a very precise scenario so that if you're scalping the market, for example, and you're trading off very short time frames, maybe you want to set variable amounts of standards here so that you are only buying when you know that there's an 80 or 90% chance that you're going to make a profit. Or it might be that you might want to keep things simple. All right, it really depends on your time frame, how you like to go about approaching markets, again, whether you're scalping and doing small trades or if you're doing more strategies to average in. For example, on my strategies, actually, I'm going to go ahead. We'll save this here real quick. Go ahead and build the strategy. We can deploy it. And just like that, we have our new strategy here with a total return of 50%. We can see here all of our average stats like we did in the previous strategies. We can see the risk here is staying around 6. So a nice general yield here since we deployed this strategy. All right. And again, we're back testing it here. We can show the initial parameters. We're back testing it since 2019. So 50% return, you know, pretty much not even a full year here. This is to November of 2019. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. Now, I want to go ahead, if we can take a look at our strategies here and talk about one of our strategies here, which is dollar cost averaging. Right, so this is a very simple strategy here where we can dollar cost average. And I think it's a prime example here if you wanted to do something more simple. Now, I want to be very clear here. I don't think it really utilizes, I think, the full potential of the Clio platform. But at the end of the day, you know, again, you can build more data intensive models that have very unique sets of taking in altcoin dominance, like crypto fundamentals, or factors from other external markets and comparing them where there might be correlation. But along with that, you can simplify those general strategies of averaging in. You can go through and buy at specific even levels here. And along with that, you can merge in different indicators. For example, maybe I want to see not only a certain decline in price percentage-wise, but I might want to see the RSI down. I might want to see the MACD. And that's really where you can get creative with this, guys. So I really recommend you go test out Clio. Just give it a try, guys. It's free to set it up. And just test around and build some custom strategies. And if you find one that works, feel free to share it down below in the comments. I'd like to hear from you guys. That being said, I hope you all are having a fantastic day wherever you are. And until the next video, I'll see you all in the next one. Stay tuned.